remember once walking around here with my father. This was about 20 years ago. And you couldn't take a step because it was overgrown. There were fallen tree limbs. I mean, there was a time just about a year and a half ago where in the back of the cemetery, if someone had thrown a match, 20 acres would have gone up because it was all just nothing but dried, rotted wood. And it was kind of terrifying. You didn't know what was lurking back there.
This was definitely a forgotten place, and there are a lot of forgotten people that I think even family members, may not know the full history on. So this is definitely, and forgotten in terms of just the neglect and the lack of care and just the shape that this place is in.
I've been coming out here now for probably close to 15 years. The first time I came out here, I was just incredibly saddened and disappointed. I came out looking for a family member, and having gone to so many other of the big cemeteries around Dallas that are so well maintained, and I mean, they're just, you can just walk through easily, there's no problem. Then you come out here and everything was overgrown, there was broken down equipment everywhere, there was, old trucks parked on tops of graves. It was bad. In the back corner, the fence had been at one point kind of pushed down, and people were just dumping like couches and old furniture, televisions, whatever they didn't want to get rid of themselves. It was really disappointing to see how neglected the cemetery was, even with an acting board of trustees and a full-time maintenance person that lived on the grounds. You really wouldn't even know that you were walking in a cemetery, other than once in a while you'll see, you're like, why is that there? And you'll realize, oh, that's a headstone or a part of a headstone. Also very sad, made you want to go in there and click, because when you come across these stones that nobody's seen in 20 or 30 years, it's sad. You think, this person, it'll say gone but not forgotten, and you're like, sorry buddy, but you were forgotten. Like, they lied to you.
It was a hot mess, if you will. But that is what I think is unfortunately an honest answer of that complacency. To me, walking through anything 50 plus acres smack dab in the middle of South Dallas, am I supposed to be shocked that we have overgrown weeds? Am I supposed to be outraged that the city hasn't done something about this and that and this? It's hard because it's all in perspective.
The problem is at South Dallas. The problem with it is that there is very little change. And that's not the neighborhood's fault, it's the city's fault. That's why Oakland fell into its problems to begin with. Everything in South Dallas, good, bad, and otherwise, gets ignored, swept under the cemetery, as it were.
It kind of feels like even though you're in the middle of the city, you're not really in the middle of the city. Like, once you're on this property, you kind of feel like you're just in the middle of your own little world. So I think that's why I like it out here so much. You can walk through here and really get a feel for how the city functioned and worked, and how these people lived together, and how they shared this city at that part in time. Because it really all speaks out to how they're laid out in this cemetery. You can see how it was structured. And I think that's a really interesting thing. You walk around and you're like, okay, I get this, I get that. It's more than just the history of the names, it's the history of all of it. It tells the story of the city.
Everybody left South Dallas, or everybody who had people buried here left South Dallas. That's what happened to it. It is still sort of a neighborhood cemetery, but this is not where people who live in the neighborhood are buried. This is where the people who built the city are buried, when they used to live over here, when this wasn't South Dallas, when this was just Dallas. So yeah, when all of these folks left, if they were ever really here to begin with, the cemetery got completely forgotten about and ignored.
I think that there's more of a complacency mindset that existed. And I think that it speaks to that history that we were kind of touching on. Had this cemetery, specifically with the amount of historical significance that it has to the city of Dallas, be sitting along Hillcrest or over somewhere around the White Rock Lake area, it would never have seen the times that it got to. But there was a mindset of complacency that existed because the city of Dallas and leadership for so long let that be the expectation for the entire area that the Oakland Cemetery sits in. So I don't know necessarily that I can throw a blame on any particular person, more so than a mindset that this cemetery was encapsulated in that has been a detriment to an entire community.
I mean, I've probably passed it over a dozen times, but I never paid any attention to the cemetery. When I used to work for the company contractor for the city of Dallas, and we did Opportunity Park, I might have looked over here a couple times, but I never paid any attention. So I never really knew about this place. It makes me feel good to be a part of this. But as far as the history that I've been learning about Oakland Cemetery, I can't go back in the past. So I try to just stay in the present, and I'm glad that everybody on my crew is a different nationality. We were offered to do a job, and that's what we're here for. And I hope that we can make a change. And to be here, and I mean, you got Confederates that now have become a big issue in this time, but it doesn't bother me, because I don't see color, I see people.
I try very hard not to judge people that were alive 100 years ago based on today's standards of what we find acceptable and not acceptable. 120 years ago, what we might think now is just absolutely atrocious was just the socially accepted norm. If you were going to exist in this city, this is the way you were going to exist. I can't put that same criteria on them then that we have now. So I try real hard not to look at it and go, oh, well, you were definitely a KKK member. This cemetery is a great equalizer. You've got people that were worth millions. You've got people that couldn't afford a headstone. It's so Dallas. I think that what's going on out here is we finally have a new board that is accountable and holding themselves accountable for the condition of the cemetery, which is something that the cemetery has been lacking for a very long time. And under that new board, I think that a lot of the families and a lot of the people out here volunteering are inspired to once again put in some effort, because before it kind of felt pointless to put in effort when you knew that effort wasn't being matched by the people that were actually in charge out here. So you've got a lot of people that are kind of reinvigorated about taking care of this place now that we know the people in charge want to take care of this place.
I said yes, I would get involved, really thinking, how difficult could it be? It's a cemetery. Well, it's 60 acres, it's 36,000 people. It really kind of, from a governance and the way it was structured and set up, there were a lot of things that were not in good shape. It's gross negligence. There are, again, 36,000 people that are buried out here, and we didn't have the records, many of them at all. Found them in a, not in a vault, a fireproof vault, found them in a garage or something next to a gas can. You'd have to ask her all the specifics of that. But if I was at 36,000 families' records, I couldn't sleep at night. I would get this to the fireproof vault immediately, And so I don't, to say gross negligence, it's almost ignorance. I can't even think how you can sleep at night knowing that you have got, records that you've got it's no right having, and so much. I'm really baffled. It's beyond what I can clearly articulate here,
We really wanted to figure out what that process would look like to prevent it from coming in the hands of the city. And so it's actually funny to think that the solution in my eyes was actually to do everything that I could to make sure that we didn't acquire it, because I wanted to see something positive and something to grow from and something to be excited of with this. And I didn't want it to just be something that was viewed as a maintenance project that we just have to mow a certain amount of times a year to keep from acquiring code violations, essentially. I wanted to see it show its significant value and its historic significance to the city of Dallas.
I've been here a lot. I will say it looks as good as I've seen it in a very long time. It's nice. It's really, I know that there's an army of volunteers.
When it all comes down to it and they're in the ground, they're just a stone with a name. That's it. And we just take care of that. Like we're not here to care about whoever Riddle was. We're just here to care for the stone and care for the plot and care for the name and try to leave all the other politics out of it.
We're out here working so much, they'll reach out to me and I'm like, y'all are still doing stuff? You know, I mean, I am extremely impressed with the commitment that occurs here. It's actually really inspiring. It's really, really inspiring. It's something to me that just says community. A lot of it is not people that live right on the outside of the gate, you know, but it's people that care enough to want to make a difference because of the impact that it has on the people that live right outside of the gate. And that's community. People out here putting in sweat equity for something that doesn't benefit them. And I'm extremely appreciative. And I don't think that Oakland Cemetery's progress from last August to now would be near what it is without all of the volunteers.
That Oakland Cemetery just isn't who we were, but it is still who we are. There are black folks here, there are white folks here, there's Santos Rodriguez and other Mexican Americans and other Hispanics who were born and raised here and killed here by Dallas police officers, in the case of Santos Rodriguez. There should be tourist buses that come here every day to tell about this person, that person. There should be field trips. Every school should have to come here.
We have opportunity, like I said, for field trips with DISD. You know, I think that's something that could be done on a regular basis.
So we need to make this right for the community and make this right for all the people that are buried here.
It is a long-term goal, but I do think that the amount of interest that has come in such a short time with the buzz that has been created around Oakland Cemetery, that the fundraising will happen and that those innovative ideas will also start to roll out as well.
So I love this place. I mean, there are other cemeteries like this that have certain these pioneers and founders, whether it's downtown or Southeast Dallas or wherever. But this place is unique and special. The entire city story going forward is told here if we just choose to at least acknowledge that we sometimes have to look a little backward.